Did you ever notice that Carmine has these scary yellow cat eyes with vertical slits for her pupils? It's interesting because they kind of code her as a villain, and I also think that her hair is supposed to reinforce the idea that she has a certain threatening aura, because she's got these crazy bangs that flop all over her face, and I think they're supposed to express a certain inner capacity for wildness and violence. And I also think that Carmine's design is very similar to that of Power in Chainsaw Man, because Power also has these predatory eyes and these crazy bangs that drape all over her face, and these features also serve the same function of expressing Power's capacity for wild and uncivilized violence. And so Carmine is similar to Power in that they're lightly villain-coded even though they're also not really villains. In the case of Carmine, she's your main friend and collaborator in the Teal Mask questline. And I think there's at least two storytelling reasons that explain why Carmine was given this threatening aura in her character design. The first reason has to do with her own personality. Carmine has a tendency to get frustrated and mad, very easily. And whenever this happens, she visibly struggles to contain her emotions by clenching her fist and shaking throughout her entire body, like it's a struggle. And I think that's where a lot of her villain-coded energy ultimately comes from. It's this idea that Carmine experiences an extremely turbulent emotional life. And this turbulence gives her a certain potential to become a villain because of all of the stormy anger that brews in her heart, but she also never realizes that potential. Instead, she masters her emotions and she uses them for good. And that's why she becomes such a valuable, if also somewhat unstable ally in the Teal Mask questline. And I think the other reason that Carmine has these lightly villain-coded features is so that she can function as a foil for her younger brother Kieran. Because Kieran has all the same villain coding as she does. He's got the predatory cat-like eyes, and he's got the wild hair. But unlike Carmine, he begins his story as a docile and pretty harmless young kid. But then over the course of the Teal Mask questline, he gradually develops into an increasingly angsty teenager. He starts to become resentful and bitter and competitive in unhealthy ways. And I think what's happening here is that the same emotional turbulence that we saw in his sister Carmine is also manifesting in Kieran. Except unlike his sister, he isn't able to master it, and he allows it to corrupt himself, and it turns him into kind of a bad guy. And so there's a way in which Kieran has the same emotional struggles as his sister, but the outcome of their struggles takes them into polar opposite directions.